Hey, how's it going, everybody? Lately I've been wanting to make a pass-through window seal that's works a little bit better than those inflatable pass-through window gaskets that you use for camper shells and stuff like that. I've seen them for the truck campers, but they just don't seem to be, number one, very durable, and two, they're not big enough for, they're not thick enough for my model of truck. This Ford F-350, the cab kind of slants a little bit, and with the camper window not lining up, it doesn't make a good seal for dust or for moisture or anything like that. So I'm going to try to come up with a little something, maybe an idea with some foam, some closed cell foam that I can cut to size for the pass-through, and that way that when the dogs are back there or whatever, they can they can come up into the cab when we're driving like they like to do. And then also, when we're camping, I fold these seats down, and the dogs will sleep back here on the on that deck that folds out from underneath the rear seats of this crew cab truck. So it's nice to have that pass through. They can go in and out that way instead of having to get up and go outside the truck camper when we want to let them out. We can just let them out through this way. So what I did was I bought some wedge foam, and it's about 10 inches thick on one end, on the wide end, and then it slopes all the way down to about 1 inch. But I'll have to cut a little bit up from that. This is about 18 inches is what I'll need this way, and then for the width is about 16 inches. So I've got plenty there. I think it's the piece I bought, I think, is 24 by 20. So there should be plenty to cut a hole out in the center. And the good thing about doing it with closed cell foam is I'll be able to install it just through this pass-through window. When I slide this slider open, I can just install it around the window to seal that up. So should keep the dust out, and also allow us to use the pass-through window from the truck cab to the truck camper. So let's go ahead and take a look at the supplies that I'm going to need, and the foam and all the parts, and we'll get to some measuring and cut that foam, see if it works. Should go pretty quick. You can see here how the cab slopes. Got about 4-inch gap on the bottom, but on the top it's about an 8-inch gap. So I think that 10-inch foam should work just fine, that wedge. Let's take a look at it. Okay, so here's a few things that you'll need to do this pass-through gasket, pass-through seal, tape measure, Sharpie. I've got a utility knife with a brand new blade in it, one of those snap-off blades, a square, a straight edge. Got my 4-foot straight edge here, and then this is optional, but I'm going to try to use this electric knife to cut the foam along with the breakaway blade utility knife. So and then of course your foam wedge. This piece of foam is let's see, it's 24 for the width by 26 for the length, and then it's 12 inches deep at the thickest part, and it goes all the way down to 1 inch on this end. So I might have to cut a little bit off of this end because I've got a 4-inch gap on the bottom, so I might have to cut it back to 4 inches here, or maybe even a little bit more. And then that, because I don't need this full 26 inches, but I will need the full 24-inch width. So I think I only need about 16 or 18 inches here for the height, and then that full 24 for the width. I'm going to go out to the truck and take some measurements now. All right, so in the cab of the truck, the slider is 15.5 inches wide. By 17 inches tall. So I need at least 15.5 by 17. Let's go in the truck camper and measure that window. All right, so I'm in the truck camper. Got the window open, and the opening is 16 wide by, looks like 15 high, so 16 by 15. All right, so if we go 16 wide and 17 high, we'll have plenty of room for the pass-through window on the truck camper slider and for the cab of the truck. It'll be just a little bit wider. The foam will come into this area, which is fine because this slider actually opens up to the inside of the truck cab. So let's go back in and we'll mark out that foam and start making some cuts. All right, so I want to take my measurements and get them marked out here on the foam, but I want to orient this so the flat side and the angled side are marked as the truck camper side and the truck cab side. So this is the truck cab side, and this is the flat side that goes up against the truck camper slider. So I'm going to mark out this side because I want to make my cuts straight through this way. And that way, you know, the angled side of the truck cab is nice and straight at the top of the cut and at the bottom of the cut. And then of course the sides will be straight up and down. Another thing I want to make sure of is that I've got at least 2 inches on the top here. I want the frame around the opening to be 2 inches, have 2 inches of foam. That's going to do two things. Number one, it's going to give me a little bit more insulation because I'm going to be leaving this on most of the time. This will be waterproof, so or should be waterproof. We'll see when I test it, but I want to have a little bit of insulation there, so a couple of inches should do that. And then of course once it's smashed in between the cab and the truck camper, that should actually, you know, get a little bit thicker or denser when it's actually installed. So I'm going to go ahead and get this marked out to where I've got at least that 2 inches of thickness around the around the cutout. Now I know that a lot of these truck campers and truck cabs are going to be different. They're going to have different slopes. Like maybe the Northern Lights and the Bigfoots have a sloped front pass-through window, and the cabs on like the GMCs and the Fords and the Chevys and the Dodges are quite a bit different. So your cuts are going to be different. Just measure it out as far as, you know, where to place it on the piece of foam to get the best seal. All right, so I ended up marking this up. This will be my cut for the lower end, and then this will be my cut for the higher end. I've still got 2.5 inches of foam here, and of course when that's compressed it's going to be a little over 3 inches. You start the cut with the utility knife. Right on the line. I think with the longer blade on the kitchen knife I can get through all this. But I might measure and mark the other side, and that way I can make cuts from this other side as well. All right, do this at your own risk. I don't want to be responsible for you hacking up your workbench or dining room table. Keep your fingers out of the way, and know where you're going to be coming out on the other side here. Let's give this knife a shot. I think it's pretty square. Clean it up a little bit, but I think that'll be good. I'm gonna go out and fit it to the truck and see where I need to add, if I need to add any foam in this lower area. But all in all, I think that's pretty good. All right, let's get the rear window open. Hopefully I should be able to just kind of scrunch this thing up and fit it through the window there, and don't have to worry about pushing it in through the, you know, the outside here. Let's scrunch this up, see what we can do. All right, so there's the foam piece installed. I just pushed it in through the window and just kind of, you know, filled in the gaps. It smashes down and compresses really well. And then I, of course, just added two little scrap pieces in the corners here and sealed up those gaps. But there's no gaps anywhere around. It's up against the window frame here on the cab over camper, and seals all the way around the truck window. No gaps. With the last one that I built, I had foam on either side of a piece of angled plywood, a little plywood box, and with the flex of the cab, it was putting too much pressure on my back window. I was afraid I was going to pop the glass out of the back window. So this is all foam. It should flex. The only thing I might be worried about is if it, you know, moves around too much and creates gaps. But I can just fill in any small gaps with you know, little pieces of foam or something, or just, you know, you can kind of move this stuff around if you need to, and you know, make it fit if it happens to shift while you're on the road. So awesome having the pass-through window back. Dogs will love it. I don't think it gets much easier than that. Should keep the bugs out and the dust out. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. Put all the parts and stuff where I got it in the description below. But if you you know, want a pass-through window gasket to keep the dust out and the bugs out, should keep the mosquitoes out, and hopefully that you know, the pieces and stuff that I used, all the materials, will help you make one for your truck and camper. All right, so the foam has some pretty good waterproof to it. Water did soak into it though, so I'm going to go ahead and hit it with this Thompson's water seal. It's a fabric sealer, and I've used this on, you know, cushions, outdoor cushions and stuff, so should work just fine on this stuff, just to give it that little bit of extra waterproofing for if I happen to be driving in the rain or something like that. There's the seal from the outside. You can see I just shoved in that other little piece of foam right down in there, but there's no air gaps or anything. So I'll get back to you guys next few videos after I've, you know, driven around with you know, that seal in between the cab and the camper, just to make sure that you know, everything is, you know, seated properly and it's not leaking and not shifting around. It shouldn't. It's you know, that foam being compressed and being pushed up against the cab and the camper and being flexible, it shouldn't move around at all. So I'm really happy with the number one, the way that it's sealed, but also two, how easy it was to make. And it should last a lot longer and be a better seal than those, you know, little inflatable ones that it never really fit right anyway. So if you guys have any other ideas on how to make a good seal between the, you know, the back window and the truck camper, I'd love to hear them. And you know, maybe there's a better way to do this, but we really like to have that pass-through window open. And it's just so much more convenient with when you have pets and stuff. They can come into the cab and hang out with the kids, or they can go out back, you know, into the camper and chill out on the dinette or something. So this should help with that, you know, just as far as keeping the dust out and the bugs out and stuff. So give me a big thumbs up if you like the video, and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you on the next one. Later.